Are you struggling to get the answers correct in OET Reading Part C? Don't worry, you're not alone. One of the most confusing question types is when they ask about the writer's attitude or opinion. Today, I'll show you how to spot the writer's opinion so you can get more correct answers and get a high score. In OET Reading Part C, you're looking at complex healthcare-related texts, usually from medical journals, articles, or opinion pieces. It's common to see questions like, what is the writer's attitude? Or how does the writer feel about? Or what is the writer's opinion on? These test your ability to infer, not just understand facts, but also the tone, viewpoint, and feelings of the writer. So why are these questions so tricky? Well, the reason for this is that the writer doesn't usually state their opinion explicitly. You have to read between the lines. Another challenge in Part C is distractors. These are options that look correct, but they don't truly reflect the writer's attitude. So how can we manage this tricky part of the OET reading test to ensure we get the correct answers? Let's go through it step by step. First, you can look out for opinion words that indicate the writer's feelings. Some examples of positive words might be promising, beneficial, encouraging, or exciting. Some examples of negative words could be problematic, limited, concerning, or ineffective. And you might have words that indicate a more neutral or cautious tone. Look out for modal verbs like may, might, or could, as well as words like possibly or evidence suggests to suggest that the writer has a more neutral or cautious tone. Step 2 is to understand the context of the sentence as a whole. Is the writer supporting an idea? Are they criticizing something or showing concern? Are they neutral or simply presenting information? It's important that you look at the words and understand the context of the sentence as a whole to really understand what the writer is feeling. Next, look out for contrast words. Words such as although, in spite of, however. These words are important as they often signal a change in attitude or opinion. For example, look at the following sentence. The results are promising, although more research is needed. Now, when you see the word promising, you might think that the writer is showing a positive attitude. However, we have that contrast word, although. This indicates a change of tone. The writer then goes on to say more research is needed. So if we look at this sentence as a whole and take into account the contrast word, we can see that the writer is displaying a neutral or somewhat cautious attitude. And this brings me on to step 4, which is to focus on the entire paragraph, not just a few words and phrases. Don't base your answer on a single positive or negative word. Look at the paragraph as a whole before you make your decision. Now, we're going to look at some examples. I will show you a sentence. Look at the words in the sentence and consider it as a whole and decide if the writer is displaying a positive, negative, or neutral attitude. So here is your first sentence. Initial studies into the new vaccine have shown promising results, but experts urge caution as long-term effects are still unknown. Do you think this is positive, negative, or neutral? Well, if we take a look at these words, we've got promising. Now, promising would usually indicate a positive attitude. However, it's then followed by a contrast word, but, and then we have urge caution, long-term effects still unknown. So we can see from this sentence, the writer is neutral or perhaps cautious in their attitude. Let's look at another example. There can be no doubt that these new ways of working will improve patient outcomes significantly. What is the writer's attitude and which words helped you decide? Well, as you can see, the writer said there can be no doubt, so they're expressing a strong opinion, and then they use positive words such as improve and significantly. and they're talking about improving something significantly. Therefore, they're displaying a positive attitude. And now this one. While early treatment options have provided some relief, their effectiveness remains limited, leaving many patients frustrated. Which words and phrases help you identify the writer's opinion? Hopefully, you identified this section. Their effectiveness remains limited. Remember, if the writer's describing something as limited, that's quite a negative attitude. And we also have that extra part there saying that many patients are frustrated. Another negative word. So now you get the idea. We're looking for words that can indicate different attitudes or feelings towards something. We're paying attention to contrast words, and we're also looking at the sentence as a whole. Let's now look at a real Part C question that's asking about the writer's attitude. The question asks, what feeling does the writer express in the 6th paragraph? So very clearly asking you to identify their attitude or opinion. Now let's go to the answer options and see the different attitudes that we might expect to read about. We have understanding, surprise, concern, and impatience. Now, of course, you will also pay attention to the rest of the answer options so you really understand what the text is referring to. But let's think about those 4 words. Understanding, surprise, concern, and impatience. We need to think about the difference between those attitudes and then also consider words and phrases that we might expect to see from a writer who's expressing those different feelings. Now let's go to the text and try to find the answer. Remember, we're taking the paragraph as a whole and we're looking out for indicators of feelings. So I have highlighted the sections of the text that I think indicate the writer's opinion, and you can see that these are all pointing to a feeling of understanding. The writer starts by saying we're trained to behave calmly. It can, however, make it difficult to learn to express sympathy. It may sometimes be necessary to make a conscious effort to relearn. And in the clinical setting, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the weight of clinical responsibility. The unintended consequence may then be that this also serves to disguise sympathy. So you can see by all these parts of the text, if we take it as a whole, the writer is expressing understanding in this paragraph. There's nothing in there to indicate surprise, concern, or impatience. So that is how we got to the answer. Now you know the strategy, let's just talk about some common mistakes to avoid when answering these types of questions. First mistake is focusing on individual words, not the full meaning. Make sure you take the text as a whole. Second mistake is missing contrast words like but, however, although, as these can indicate a change in opinion or attitude. Another mistake is assuming that neutral information is either positive or negative. Sometimes the writer is not expressing a particularly strong opinion either way. They might just be saying something in a neutral tone, and you need to be able to identify this. The final mistake is letting your own opinion influence your answer. Remember, you're looking to see what the writer thinks, you're not using your own ideas to answer this. So how can you practice this important skill? Well, a great way to practice is to look at different medical texts like journal articles, read through them, and then ask yourself, what is the writer's overall attitude? How do I know? What words and phrases in the text help me to infer what the writer thinks? Are they supportive of an idea, critical, neutral, or cautious? Then you can move on to real OET practice papers and look at answering the questions for yourself. Another great way to get support with these types of tricky OET reading questions is to get the help from an expert OET teacher. At Swoosh English, our expert teachers break down the question with you and help you identify the answer in the text. They can show you phrases and vocabulary that lead you to the correct answer, go over your mistakes, and help you to understand where you went wrong. All of our courses include comprehensive mock exams with exam analysis videos that will help you to improve your score each time. You can also join our live group classes where the teacher will go through real exam examples with you and help you find the correct answer using these strategies and more. We've seen time and time again that students improve their score much more quickly with this kind of supported guided practice. So if this sounds like something you need, then why not book a free call with our Student Success team today? They'll talk you through what Swoosh English can offer you and help you build a personalised study plan to get the score that you need as quickly as possible. To book that call, click the link in the description below this video. And if you're looking for more expert tips and advice for how to improve your reading score, then I highly recommend you check out this video next.